When Caleb Wright walked through the gates of the Whitmore mansion, he had no idea he was about to change two lives forever. The wealthy heiress behind those walls had built her empire on cruelty and prejudice, treating contractors like servants and believing her money made her untouchable. But this single father was different. He carried something she'd never encountered before: unshakable dignity and the courage to demand respect. What started as desperate man's last chance for rent money would become a collision of two worlds that neither saw coming. The racist billionaire thought she could break him, but she had no idea she was about to face the one person who would refuse to be broken. And when her own mother arrived to destroy what was growing between them, the ultimate test of character would reveal who truly deserved redemption. If you're watching this incredible story of transformation and courage, subscribe right now and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love connecting with viewers from around the world. Caleb Wright opened his eyes at 5:30 in the morning. The alarm hadn't gone off yet. His body just knew when it was time to get up. He looked at the ceiling of his small bedroom and listened. The pipes in the walls made soft sounds. The refrigerator hummed in the kitchen. Everything was quiet and safe. He rolled out of bed and walked to the kitchen. His bare feet were cold on the old linoleum floor. The apartment was small but clean. Caleb made sure of that. He opened the refrigerator and pulled out sandwich meat and cheese. Liam would need lunch for school. While he made the sandwich, Caleb thought about money. Again. Always. The rent was due in 5 days. His bank account had $312. The landlord wanted $800. Caleb's chest felt tight when he thought about it. "Dad?" Liam stood in the hallway. His brown hair stuck up in the back. His Spider-Man pajamas were too small. Caleb needed to buy new ones soon. "Hey, buddy, you're up early." "I heard you in the kitchen." Liam walked over and wrapped his arms around Caleb's waist. "Are we okay?" The question hit Caleb like a punch. Kids always knew when something was wrong. Liam was only 7, but he was smart. Too smart sometimes. "We're okay," Caleb said. He put his hand on Liam's head. "Go get dressed. I'll make you some cereal." "Can I have the kind with the marshmallows?" "You know the rule. Sugar cereal on weekends only." Liam made a face, but walked back to his room. Caleb finished the sandwich and wrapped it in plastic. He put it in Liam's lunchbox with an apple and a juice box. The lunchbox was old. The zipper stuck sometimes, but it worked. His phone buzzed on the counter. A voicemail. Caleb's stomach dropped. Voicemails in the morning were never good news. "Mr. Wright, this is Dave from Property Management. Your rent was due 3 days ago. I need to hear from you today. Thanks." Caleb set the phone down and closed his eyes. 3 days late. He knew that. He'd been hoping for work. Any work. But the construction jobs were slow right now. People weren't fixing their houses when money was tight. "Dad, I can't find my math homework." Caleb opened his eyes. "Check your backpack." "I did." "Check again." Liam came back to the kitchen with his backpack. He dumped everything on the table: books, pencils, crumpled papers. No math homework. "When did you do it last?" Caleb asked. "Yesterday after school, at the table." Liam looked worried. "Mrs. Garcia gets mad when we don't have our homework." Caleb looked through the papers on the table. There it was, a worksheet about adding 2-digit numbers. All finished in Liam's careful handwriting. "Here it is," Caleb said. "It was under your spelling book." Liam smiled. "Thanks, Dad." They ate breakfast together, cereal with regular milk. Liam told Caleb about a story his teacher read yesterday. Something about a mouse who went on adventures. Caleb listened and tried not to think about the rent. At 7:30, they got in Caleb's truck. It was a 2010 Ford with rust spots and a dent in the back. But it ran. Caleb took care of it himself. He could fix almost anything. The drive to Liam's school took 15 minutes. They listened to the radio. A song Liam liked came on. He sang along in the passenger seat. His voice was high and sweet. "Dad?" Liam said when they pulled into the school parking lot. "Yeah? Are you worried about something?" Caleb turned off the truck. He looked at his son. Liam had Caleb's brown eyes and his mother's gentle face. Caleb's ex-wife had left 2 years ago. She said she wasn't ready to be a mom. She sent birthday cards sometimes. Nothing else. "I'm always thinking about grown-up stuff," Caleb said. "That's what dads do. But I'm not worried about us. We're a good team." "The best team?" Liam said. "The very best." Liam got out of the truck and ran toward the school building. His backpack bounced on his shoulders. Caleb watched until Liam disappeared through the front doors. Then he drove away. He needed to go to the supply store. Even without work, he had to keep his tools organized. Sometimes jobs came up fast. He had to be ready. The supply store was busy. Contractors came here early to buy what they needed for the day. Caleb knew most of them. They all looked tired. Everyone was struggling. "Caleb? Hey, man." Frank Alvarez walked over. Frank was older, maybe 45. He'd been doing construction for 20 years. He knew everyone in town. "Frank, how's business?" "Slow, real slow." Frank shook his head. "You working anything?" "Looking." "You hear about that big house up on Cliff Road? Whitmore House?" Caleb had heard of it. Everyone had. It was a huge mansion that sat on the rocks above the ocean. Some rich woman lived there alone. People said she was mean and crazy. "What about it?" Frank lowered his voice. "Word is, she needs repair work. Big job. But here's the thing. 3 contractors already quit, just walked off the job." "Why?" "The lady who owns it, Eleanor Whitmore. She's—" Frank paused. "She's not nice, at all. I heard she screamed at the last guy until he cried. Called him names I won't repeat." Caleb frowned. "What kind of names?" Frank looked around to make sure no one was listening. "The kind of names guys like us hear sometimes. You know what I mean." Caleb's jaw tightened. He knew exactly what Frank meant. "The house is falling apart too," Frank continued. "Old wiring, bad plumbing, roof leaks, dangerous stuff. But the pay is supposed to be good, real good, if you can stand working for her." Caleb's phone rang. Unknown number. "Caleb Wright." "Mr. Wright, this is Janet from Coastal Contractors. I have an emergency repair job. Are you available?" Caleb's heart jumped. What kind of job? Large residential property, electrical and plumbing issues, safety concerns. The client needs someone to start today. "What's the address?" "Whitmore House, 1247 Cliff Road." Caleb looked at Frank. Frank was watching him with worried eyes. "What's the pay rate?" Caleb asked. $1,500 a day, plus materials. The client is very particular, but she pays well for quality work." $1,500 a day. Caleb's rent was $800. If he worked for just 3 days, he could pay rent and buy groceries and maybe even get Liam those new pajamas. "I'll take it." "Excellent. Can you be there at 10 this morning?" "I'll be there." Caleb hung up. Frank was shaking his head. "Caleb, man, don't do it. That woman will eat you alive." "I need the money, Frank. Really need it." "There's got to be other work." "Not like this. Not this fast." Caleb put his phone in his pocket. "How bad can one person be?" Frank stared at him for a long moment. "You really want to know? My cousin Roberto worked there last month. She made him take his shoes off before he came in the house. Treated him like he was dirty. Called him boy, even though he's 38 years old. When he tried to explain why a repair would take 2 days instead of 1, She said people like him always make excuses. People like him. The words sat heavy in Caleb's chest. Roberto walked out, Frank said. Left his tools and everything. Said no amount of money was worth that. Caleb thought about Liam eating cereal that morning. About the rent due in 5 days. About the worried look on his son's face when he asked if they were okay. I have to try, Caleb said. Frank sighed. Just be careful, man. Don't let her get in your head. Caleb drove home to get his tools. The apartment felt different now. Smaller. Like the walls were pressing in. He couldn't lose this place. Liam was finally settled. He liked his school and his teacher. He had friends. Caleb loaded his truck with everything he might need. Electrical supplies, plumbing tools, safety equipment. He'd learned a long time ago to be prepared for anything. At 9:30, he drove toward Cliff Road. The houses got bigger as he climbed the hill. Big yards, fancy cars, gates and fences. This was a different world. Whitmore House sat at the end of the road. It was huge. 3 stories of old stone and wood. Big windows that reflected the sky. It should have been beautiful, but something about it felt cold. Empty. Caleb parked his truck in front of iron gates. There was a call box on a stone post. He pressed the button. Yes? The voice was sharp. A woman. This is Caleb Wright, from Coastal Contractors. Nothing for a moment. Then the gates opened with a low hum. Caleb drove up a long driveway. Gardens on both sides, but they looked wild, like no one took care of them anymore. The house got bigger as he got closer. It was even more impressive up close, and more intimidating. He parked near the front door and got out. The ocean was behind the house. He could hear waves crashing against rocks. The sound was lonely. The front door was massive, dark wood with brass details. There was no doorbell. Just a heavy brass knocker shaped like a lion's head. Caleb knocked 3 times. Footsteps inside. The door opened. An older woman stood there, maybe 60, with gray hair and kind eyes. She wore a simple blue dress and an apron. You must be Mr. Wright. I'm Mrs. Doyle. I keep house here. Her voice was soft, with a slight Irish accent. Nice to meet you. Mrs. Doyle stepped aside to let him in. The inside of the house was as impressive as the outside. High ceilings, marble floors, paintings in gold frames. Everything looked expensive and cold. I should warn you, Mrs. Doyle said quietly. Miss Eleanor she can be difficult. I heard that. She's not a bad person, not really, but she's been alone too long. It's made her hard. Before Caleb could answer, footsteps clicked on the marble floor. Sharp, fast footsteps, high heels. A woman walked into the foyer. She was tall and thin with blonde hair pulled back tight. Her clothes looked expensive. Black pants and a white blouse that probably cost more than Caleb's truck payment. She was pretty, but her face was cold. You're the contractor. It wasn't a question. Caleb Wright. She looked him up and down. Her blue eyes were like ice. Do you have identification? Caleb pulled out his wallet and showed her his license. And insurance papers? In my truck. Get them. It wasn't a request. It was an order. Caleb's jaw tightened, but he walked back outside. He could feel her watching him through the window. He brought back his insurance papers and his contractor's license. She looked at everything carefully. The agency said you specialize in electrical and plumbing. That's right. Good. Because this house is falling apart. The previous contractors were incompetent. I assume you're not. I do good work. You'd better. I don't tolerate mistakes. She folded her arms across her chest. And I don't tolerate people who track dirt through my house. Remove your shoes. Caleb stared at her. Excuse me? Your shoes. Take them off. I won't have you tracking mud on my floors. Mrs. Doyle shifted uncomfortably behind her. Caleb could feel the older woman's embarrassment. "These are work boots," Caleb said. "They're clean." "I don't care. In my house, you follow my rules." Caleb took a deep breath. He thought about Liam asking if they were okay. He thought about the rent money. He thought about Frank's warning. He bent down and unlaced his boots, pulled them off and set them by the door. His socks were clean, but he felt exposed. Smaller. Better. The woman's smile was cold. "I'm Eleanor Whitmore. This is my house. When you're here, you do what I say. No questions." "I need to see the problem areas," Caleb said. "Of course you do. But first, let's establish some rules. You work quickly and quietly. You don't wander around the house. You don't touch anything that isn't broken. And you certainly don't make yourself comfortable." The way she said comfortable made it sound dirty. "You'll work during the day only. I don't want you here at night. I don't want you bringing friends or family. This is my private space." "I understand." "Do you? Because people like you sometimes think that working in a nice house means you're welcome here. You're not. You're here to fix what's broken and leave. People like you." There it was. Frank had been right. Caleb's hands curled into fists at his sides, but he didn't move, didn't speak. "Now," Eleanor said, "let me show you the problems." She led him through the house. The electrical panel was in the basement, old and dangerous. Wires were labeled wrong. Some looked burned. It was a fire waiting to happen. "The lights upstairs flicker," Eleanor said. "The outlets in the kitchen don't work half the time. Fix it." The plumbing was worse. The water heater was ancient. Pipes were corroded. There were water stains on ceilings where leaks had been ignored. "The water pressure is terrible," Eleanor complained. "The shower in the master bathroom barely works. The toilet in the guest room runs constantly. I'm tired of listening to it." They walked through room after room, beautiful rooms full of expensive furniture and art, but everything felt unlived in. Like a museum where no one was allowed to touch anything. "How long will all this take?" Eleanor asked. Caleb looked around. The electrical work alone would take a week. The plumbing, another week. And that was if everything went smoothly. 2 weeks, maybe 3. "Unacceptable. I want it done in 1 week." "That's not realistic. This is complicated work. It has to be done safely." "I don't pay people to make excuses." "I'm not making excuses. I'm telling you the truth." Eleanor's eyes flashed. "Are you arguing with me?" "I'm explaining the job. In my experience, people like you always want more time and more money. You think I'm some rich lady you can take advantage of. I think you're a client who wants quality work done safely. Don't try to charm me. It won't work." They stood in the kitchen now. A huge room with marble countertops and stainless steel appliances. Everything looked perfect except for the water stain on the ceiling where a pipe had leaked. "I need to check the circuits," Caleb said. "Turn off the main power for a few minutes." "Absolutely not. I have a conference call at 2. Then I can't safely work on the electrical." "Figure it out." "There's no figuring it out. Either I can turn off the power or I can't do the job." Eleanor stared at him. Her face was getting red. "You people are all the same. Full of demands and attitude. Maybe I should just find someone else." "You people." The words hit Caleb like a slap. He set down his toolbox. Slowly. Carefully. Mrs. Doyle appeared in the kitchen doorway. She looked worried. "Ms. Whitmore," Caleb said. His voice was quiet, but hard. "I'm going to say this once. I'm here to do a job. I'll do it well, and I'll do it safely. But I won't stand here while you insult me." "Insult you? I'm simply telling you how things work in my house." "No, you're treating me like I'm nothing. Like I'm some kind of threat just for being here." Caleb took a step forward. Eleanor took a step back. I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do. You made me take off my shoes like I was dirty. You keep talking about people like me and you people. You think I don't know what that means? Eleanor's mouth opened, but no words came out. I have a son, Caleb said. He's 7 years old. He asked me this morning if we were okay. You know why? Because he can tell when I'm worried about money, about rent, about keeping a roof over his head. Mrs. Doyle's hand went to her throat. I took this job because I need it, Caleb continued. Not because I want to be here. Not because I want to deal with you. But because my little boy needs me to provide for him. Eleanor was pressed against the kitchen counter now. She looked smaller than she had before. I'll do excellent work, Caleb said. I'll fix everything that's broken in this house, but I won't be treated like garbage while I do it. The kitchen was silent, except for the tick of a clock on the wall. One more comment about people like me, Caleb said. One more order to take off my shoes. One more insult. And I walk out of here. Job or no job. Money or no money. Do we understand each other? Eleanor opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Yes. Good. Caleb picked up his toolbox. Eleanor was still pressed against the counter. She looked like she couldn't decide if she was angry or scared. Now, Caleb said, about that power shutoff. Eleanor stared at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. Fine. How long do you need? 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Then I want the power back on. You'll have it. Mrs. Doyle had disappeared, probably to give them space. Or maybe she was just uncomfortable. Caleb didn't blame her. He found the main breaker in the basement and shut off the power to the house. Then he went to work. The electrical panel was worse than he'd thought. Half the breakers were the wrong size. The ground wire was loose. Someone had done a terrible job years ago and never fixed it. Caleb worked quickly but carefully. He replaced 3 breakers and tightened all the connections. He labeled each circuit so the next person would know what controlled what. After 18 minutes, he turned the power back on. The lights came on normally. No flickers, no buzzing sounds. The outlets in the kitchen worked perfectly. Eleanor was waiting in the kitchen when he came upstairs. Well, she said, kitchen outlets are fixed. Lights should be steady now, but there are more problems throughout the house. Such as? The water heater is about to die. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. When it goes, it'll flood your basement. Eleanor's face went pale. How much to fix it? Depends on what's wrong. I need to take a closer look. They went back to the basement. The water heater was 40 years old and rusty. Water had been leaking from the bottom for months, maybe years. This needs to be replaced, Caleb said. How much? With installation? About $3,000? Eleanor winced. Fine, do it. I'll need to order the unit. It'll take 2 days to get here. 2 days? I can't go 2 days without hot water. I can patch the leak temporarily, but this thing could go completely at any time. Just do whatever you can. They spent the next hour going through the house room by room. Caleb made a list of everything that needed fixing. It was a long list. By 5 o'clock, he was tired and hungry. His back ached from crawling around the basement. I'll be back tomorrow at 8, he told Eleanor. 8 is too early. I don't get up until 9. Then I'll wait in my truck until you're ready. Eleanor looked surprised, like she hadn't expected him to argue. Fine. 8 o'clock. Caleb packed his tools and walked toward the front door. His boots were still sitting where he'd left them. He sat on a chair and put them back on. Eleanor watched from the hallway. Mr. Wright, she said as he reached for the door handle. He turned around. Tomorrow, you can keep your shoes on. It wasn't much, but it was something. Thank you, Caleb said. He drove home as the sun was setting. The apartment felt warm and small and safe after the cold mansion. Liam was at the kitchen table doing homework. He looked up when Caleb walked in. Dad, how was your first day? Caleb sat down next to his son. It was interesting. Did you fix stuff? Some stuff. There's a lot to fix. Is the house really big? Really big. Bigger than a castle? Caleb smiled. Maybe just as big. Liam grinned and went back to his homework. Math problems again. Adding and subtracting. Simple problems, with clear answers. Caleb wished his own problems were that simple. His phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. This is Eleanor Whitmore. You will arrive at exactly 8 a.m. tomorrow. Do not be late. Caleb stared at the message. Even in texts, she was cold and demanding. He typed back, I'll be there. Then he deleted the message and helped Liam with his homework. They had dinner together, mac and cheese from a box. Liam told him about school, about a book his teacher was reading to the class, about a friend who brought cookies for everyone. Normal things, good things. After Liam went to bed, Caleb sat at the kitchen table and looked at the list he'd made. All the repairs Eleanor's house needed. It really was 2 weeks of work, maybe 3. If she let him do it right, if she didn't fire him first. He thought about the way she'd looked when he confronted her. Scared. Like no one had ever talked back to her before. Maybe they hadn't. Rich people lived in different worlds. They were used to getting their way. Used to people saying yes to everything. But Caleb had learned something important a long time ago. Respect wasn't something you could buy. It was something you had to give to get. Tomorrow would be day 2. He hoped it would be better than day 1. But he wasn't counting on it. The next morning came too soon. Caleb was up early again, making Liam's lunch and thinking about Eleanor Whitmore. Her cold blue eyes. The way she'd said, people like you, like the words tasted bad. But he also thought about the way she'd backed down when he stood up to her. The surprise on her face, like she wasn't used to being challenged. Dad, you look tired, Liam said over breakfast, just thinking about work. Is it hard work? Kind of. Are the people nice? Caleb paused with his coffee cup halfway to his lips. How did you explain to a 7-year-old that some people were mean for no good reason? Not everyone knows how to be nice, he said finally. Why not? I don't know, buddy. Sometimes people forget. Maybe you can remind them. Caleb smiled. Maybe I can. After dropping Liam at school, Caleb drove back to Cliff Road. The gates opened before he could press the call button. Eleanor must have been watching for him. He parked in the same spot as yesterday and walked to the front door. This time, he kept his boots on. Mrs. Doyle answered the door again. Good morning, Mr. Wright. Good morning. Miss Eleanor is in the kitchen. She seems less agitated today. That was something at least. Caleb found Eleanor standing by the coffee machine. She was dressed like yesterday. Expensive clothes, hair pulled back tight. But she looked tired. You're on time, she said. I said I would be. Many people say things they don't mean. I'm not many people. Eleanor poured coffee into a mug. Would you like some? The question surprised him. Yesterday she'd treated him like he might contaminate her house. Today she was offering him coffee. That would be nice. Thank you. She poured a second mug and handed it to him. Their fingers brushed for a second when he took it. Her hands were soft and cold. I've been thinking about what you said yesterday, Eleanor said, about the repairs taking 2 weeks. And? I still think it's too long, but I suppose quality work takes time. It does. However, I don't want this to drag on indefinitely. I want a firm schedule. Caleb pulled out his phone and opened the Notes app. Electrical work will take 5 days. Plumbing will take 7. That includes the water heater replacement. What about the roof leak in the master bedroom? I noticed water damage, but I haven't been up there yet. Could be another few days depending on how bad it is. Eleanor nodded. The leak started 6 months ago. It's gotten worse. Why didn't you fix it sooner? She stared into her coffee mug. I had someone look at it. He said it would be expensive. Then he made it clear that he expected more than just payment for the work. Caleb's jaw tightened. What do you mean? I mean, he thought a lonely woman in a big house would be grateful for male attention. When I made it clear I wasn't interested, he left and never came back. I'm sorry that happened. Eleanor looked surprised. You are? Of course. That's not okay. I suppose I assumed all contractors were like that. We're not. They stood in the kitchen drinking coffee. The silence wasn't completely comfortable, but it wasn't hostile either. I should get to work, Caleb said. Yes, I'll be in my office most of the morning. Try not to make too much noise. It was still in order, but it was politer than yesterday. Caleb spent the morning working on the kitchen outlets. The wiring was a mess behind the walls. Someone had added circuits over the years without thinking about the load on the system. It was dangerous. He had to cut into the drywall to reach some of the wires. Each cut filled the air with dust. He tried to be careful, but old houses were messy to work on. Around 11, Eleanor appeared in the kitchen doorway. What is all this dust? Sorry, I'm trying to contain it, but some always gets out. She walked into the room and looked at his work. You've made holes in my wall. I had to access the wiring. I'll patch and paint when I'm done. See that you do. She was about to leave when something made a loud pop inside the wall. The lights went out. What was that? Eleanor's voice was sharp. Caleb was already moving. He grabbed his flashlight and looked into the wall where he'd been working. Old wire shorted out. That's why I'm replacing it. Fix it, now. I am fixing it. That's what I'm doing. I have a video conference in 20 minutes. I need the lights to work. Caleb found the problem. A wire that had been patched years ago with electrical tape had finally failed. The tape was brittle and cracked. It was a miracle the house hadn't burned down. Got it, he said. He made a new connection and restored power. The lights came back on. Eleanor was standing behind him, watching every move. Is it safe now? She asked. This section is, but there are probably more problems like this throughout the house. How many more? I won't know until I open more walls. Eleanor's phone rang. She looked at the screen and frowned. I have to take this. She answered the phone as she walked away. Mother, I really can't talk right now. Her voice faded as she left the room, but Caleb could hear pieces of the conversation from down the hallway. No, I don't need you to come up here. It's just some repairs. I have it under control. The tone was different than the one she used with him. More defensive, like she was explaining herself to someone who didn't believe her. Caleb went back to work, but he found himself thinking about Eleanor's life. This huge house with nobody in it but her and Mrs. Doyle. Phone calls from her mother that she didn't want to take. Contractors who tried to take advantage of her. Not that it excused the way she'd treated him yesterday, but it explained some things. By lunchtime, he'd finished the kitchen outlets. Everything worked perfectly now. No more flickering lights or dead plugs. He was packing up his tools when Eleanor came back. How's the progress? Kitchen's done. I need to start on the dining room this afternoon. She nodded. Mrs. Doyle made sandwiches. You can eat in the breakfast nook if you want. Another surprise. Yesterday, she'd made it clear he wasn't welcome to make himself comfortable. Today, she was offering him lunch. Thank you. The breakfast nook was a small room off the kitchen with windows that looked out at the ocean. Mrs. Doyle had left a sandwich, chips, and a bottle of water on the table. Caleb ate and watched the waves crash against the rocks below. It was beautiful and wild and lonely, like the house itself. Eleanor appeared in the doorway. Do you mind if I sit? It's your house. She sat across from him with her own sandwich. They ate in silence for a while. The view is nice, Caleb said. It's the main reason I bought this place. The house itself is too big. Too much space for one person. Why don't you sell it? And go where? I've lived here for 5 years. It's home now. Even if it's too big? Better too big than too small. She looked out at the ocean. I grew up in a small house, crowded, always someone in your business. This is better. Caleb thought about his small apartment. Liam's room was so tiny that his bed touched 2 walls, but it didn't feel crowded. It felt cozy, safe. I grew up in a small house too, he said. I liked it. Did you? Why? My family was there, made it feel bigger than it was. Eleanor was quiet for a moment. I don't have family here. Mrs. Doyle seems nice. Mrs. Doyle is an employee. Doesn't mean she can't be family too. Eleanor looked at him like he'd said something strange. You think of employees as family? I think of people as people. That's very idealistic. Is it? Eleanor finished her sandwich and stood up. The afternoon is getting away from us. You should get back to work. And just like that, the moment was over. She was back to being the boss, and he was back to being the worker. But something had shifted. Just a little. Caleb spent the afternoon in the dining room. More bad wiring, more dust, more holes in the walls, but no more electrical shorts. Eleanor checked on him twice. Both times, she just stood in the doorway and watched. She didn't say much, but she didn't complain either. At 5 o'clock, Caleb started packing up. Same time tomorrow? Eleanor asked. Same time. The water heater unit should arrive tomorrow afternoon. Can you install it right away? As soon as it gets here. Eleanor nodded. She seemed like she wanted to say something else, but she didn't. Caleb drove home feeling cautiously optimistic. Day 2 had been better than day 1. Maybe Eleanor was capable of being reasonable? Maybe. Liam was waiting with a drawing when Caleb walked into the apartment. A picture of a man with tools standing next to a huge house. That's you, Liam said. Fixing the castle? It's a great drawing. The castle looks sad. Why is it sad? Caleb looked at the picture. Liam had drawn windows on the house like eyes. They did look sad. Maybe because nobody takes care of it. But you're taking care of it now. I'm trying to. Will that make it happy? I hope so, buddy. I hope so. That night, after Liam was asleep, Caleb's phone buzzed. Another text from Eleanor. The water heater delivery is confirmed for 2 p.m. tomorrow. Please be prepared to install immediately. Still giving orders, but at least she'd said please. Small steps, Caleb thought. Small steps. Day 3 started like the others. Caleb made Liam's lunch, drove him to school, and headed back to the mansion on Cliff Road. But when he pressed the call button at the gate, nothing happened. He tried again. Still nothing. Caleb pulled out his phone and called the number Eleanor had texted from. What? Her voice was sharp. The gate won't open. Oh. A pause. I'll buzz you in. The gate hummed open. Caleb drove up the long driveway, wondering what had put Eleanor in a bad mood this time. Mrs. Doyle met him at the front door. Her face was worried. She's having a difficult morning. Mrs. Doyle said quietly. Her mother called again, 3 times before 8 o'clock. About what? Family business, the kind that makes Miss Eleanor feel small again. Caleb found Eleanor in the kitchen. She was standing at the counter with her back to him, gripping a coffee mug like it might escape. "Good morning," he said. She turned around. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying. "The dining room outlets are still not working," she said. "No. Greeting. Just straight to business. I didn't finish them yesterday. That's on today's list." "Everything is on today's list, or tomorrow's list, or next week's list." Her voice was getting louder. "Nothing ever gets finished. I finished the kitchen outlets. They're working perfectly. One room, in 3 days you've finished one room." Caleb set down his toolbox. "Eleanor, what's really going on?" "Don't call me Eleanor. I'm Ms. Whitmore to you. Yesterday you offered me coffee and lunch. Today you're angry about work that's going exactly as planned. What changed?" Eleanor slammed her coffee mug down on the counter. Coffee splashed everywhere. "What changed is that I remembered who you are and who I am. You work for me. That doesn't make us friends. I never said it did." "Good, because people like you always want more than they deserve. More money, more time, more access to places you don't belong." There it was again. People like you. Caleb felt anger rise in his chest, but he also saw something else in Eleanor's face. Fear. She was scared of something, not him, something else. "What are you really angry about?" he asked. "I'm angry about incompetent work." "No, you're not. Yesterday you said I was doing good work. So, what happened between yesterday and today?" Eleanor opened her mouth to answer, then closed it. She looked away. "It doesn't matter. Just fix the outlets and stop asking personal questions." Caleb picked up his toolbox. "Fine. But for the record, I never asked for more than I deserved. I asked for basic respect. There's a difference." He walked to the dining room and got to work. The outlets here were connected to the same bad circuit as the kitchen had been. He'd have to run new wire from the basement. While he worked, he could hear Eleanor on the phone in her office down the hall. Her voice was strained. "Mother, I told you I don't need you to come up here." "No, everything is fine. It's just a few repairs." "Yes, I can handle it myself." The call went on for 20 minutes. By the end, Eleanor sounded exhausted. Caleb was drilling holes for new wire when she appeared in the dining room doorway. "How long will this take?" she asked. "A few hours. I have to run cable from the basement to here." "Will you need to cut more holes in the walls?" "Some." Eleanor rubbed her forehead. "This house is falling apart." "Old houses need work. It doesn't mean they're falling apart." "This one is. My father bought it 30 years ago. He was going to restore it completely. Make it perfect." She stared at the old wallpaper on the walls. "He died before he could finish. Left it to me along with everything else I don't know how to handle." The anger was gone from her voice. Now she just sounded tired. "What did your father do for work?" Caleb asked. "He built a company, Whitmore Industries. Started with one small factory and grew it into what it is today." Sounds like he was successful. "He was brilliant. Everyone said so. He could look at any business problem and see the solution immediately." Eleanor's voice got soft. "I inherited the company, but not the brilliance. Running a business is hard. Not for him. For him it was natural. Like breathing." She looked at Caleb. "Do you know what it's like to inherit something you're not qualified to handle?" "No. I've always had to earn what I got." Eleanor's face flushed red. "I didn't mean... That's not what I meant." "I know what you meant." The conversation had gone wrong again. Eleanor looked embarrassed and angry and sad all at the same time. "I should let you work," she said, and walked away. Caleb spent the rest of the morning thinking about what she'd said. About inheriting things you weren't qualified to handle. About trying to live up to someone else's reputation. He understood that feeling more than Eleanor might think. Not about money or businesses, but about being a father. About looking at Liam and wondering if he was doing it right. If he was enough. The water heater arrived right on time at 2 o'clock. Caleb helped the delivery guys carry it down to the basement. It was heavy and awkward on the narrow stairs. Eleanor appeared while he was disconnecting the old unit. "How long will this take?" she asked. 3 hours, maybe 4. "I need hot water tonight." "You'll have it." "Promise?" "Promise." She stood there watching him work. The old water heater was a mess. Rust and mineral deposits everywhere. It was amazing it had lasted as long as it did. "My father installed this himself," Eleanor said. "He did plumbing work?" "He did everything himself. Said if you wanted something done right, you had to do it yourself." "Smart man." "He was. Too smart for his own good sometimes." She was quiet for a moment. "He used to bring me down here when I was little. Show me how things worked. The furnace, the electrical panel, the water system. He said I needed to understand my own house." "Did you understand it?" "I thought I did. But when things started breaking after he died, I realized I'd just been watching. Not really learning." Caleb nodded. "Learning takes time. And practice. I don't have time. The company needs me. The house needs me. Everyone expects me to know what I'm doing." "Do you have help? With the company, I mean." "I have employees, but the final decisions are mine. The responsibility is mine." She paused. "Sometimes I think about selling everything. The company, this house, starting over somewhere else." "Why don't you?" "Because it's all I have. Without Whitmore Industries, without this house, who am I?" It was the most honest thing she'd said since he'd met her. "You're Eleanor," Caleb said. "That's enough." She stared at him like he'd spoken a foreign language. "Is it?" "It should be." Eleanor was quiet while Caleb worked. She sat on an old stool in the corner and watched his hands connect pipes and fittings. Her presence should have made him nervous. But it didn't. For the first time since he'd met her, she seemed calm. "Where did you learn to do this?" she asked. "My dad taught me some. The rest I learned on the job." "Was your father a contractor?" "Factory worker, but he was good with his hands, fixed everything around our house himself." Was he a good father?" The question surprised Caleb. "Yeah, he was. He died when I was 22, but he taught me a lot before then." "Like what?" "How to work hard, how to be honest, how to treat people with respect." Eleanor looked down at her hands. "My father taught me that people would try to take advantage of me, that I had to be stronger and smarter than everyone else, or they'd destroy what he built." "That's a lot of pressure." "Everything is pressure when you have what other people want." Caleb thought about that while he connected the gas line to the new water heater. He'd never had to worry about people wanting what he had. Most of the time, he worried about having enough. "Did you always want to run the company?" he asked. "I wanted to make my father proud. The company was his pride." "What about your own pride?" "I don't understand." "What makes you proud? Not your father. You." Eleanor was quiet for a long time, so long that Caleb wondered if she was going to answer. "I don't know," she said finally. "I don't think I've ever thought about it that way." Caleb finished the gas connections and started on the electrical. Eleanor watched every step. "Why are you being nice to me today?" she asked suddenly. "What do you mean?" "Yesterday, I was rude to you. Again. But today, you're having a normal conversation with me, Why? Caleb paused in his work. Because you seem sad, and being mean to sad people doesn't help anything. I'm not sad. I'm just tired. Okay, you're tired. And I'm not used to this. What? Talking to people. Real conversations, I mean, not business conversations. Don't you have friends? Eleanor laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Friends want things. Everyone wants things from me. What do I want from you? Money, a job recommendation, access to my contacts. I want money for the work I do. That's it. That's all? That's all. Eleanor studied his face like she was trying to decide if he was lying. My mother thinks I should fire you, she said. Why? She thinks having people like you in the house is inappropriate. People like you, again. What do you think? Caleb asked. I think my mother has never fixed a water heater in her life. It wasn't an answer to his question, but it wasn't an insult either. Caleb finished the electrical connections and turned on the gas. The water heater fired up with a soft whoosh sound. Give it 30 minutes and you'll have hot water, he said. Eleanor nodded. Thank you. They stood there in the basement for a moment. The new water heater hummed quietly. The old one sat in the corner, rusted and dead. I should get back to the dining room, Caleb said. Of course. But neither of them moved. Caleb, Eleanor said, when you were growing up, did your father ever make you feel like you weren't good enough? No, the opposite. He always said I could do anything I set my mind to. That must have been nice. It was. Even when things got hard, I knew he believed in me. Eleanor nodded slowly. My father believed in me too, but he also wanted me to be perfect. Anything less than perfect was failure. Nobody's perfect. I know that. In my head, I know that. But knowing and feeling are different things. Caleb packed up his tools. I better check on that dining room wiring. Caleb? He turned back. I'm sorry about this morning and yesterday and, well, about how I've been. It was the first real apology she'd given him. Thank you, he said. I'm not good at this, having workers in the house, having anyone in the house really. You're doing better than you think. Eleanor almost smiled. Am I? Yeah, you are. The rest of the afternoon went smoothly. Caleb finished the dining room outlets and started on the living room. Eleanor checked on him once, but she didn't hover. She seemed more relaxed than he'd seen her. At 5 o'clock, he was packing up when she appeared again. The hot water works perfectly, she said. Good. I took a shower. First hot shower I've had in weeks. The old unit was barely working. I know, I don't like admitting I need help with things. Caleb closed his toolbox. Most people don't. Are you coming back tomorrow? Same time as always. Eleanor nodded. I'll try to be easier to work with. You're fine. No, I'm not, but I'm trying to be better. It was the most honest thing she'd said yet. Caleb drove home thinking about Eleanor's conversation with her mother, about the pressure of inheriting something you weren't sure you could handle, about being lonely in a house too big for one person. Liam was at the kitchen table when he walked in. Math homework spread out in front of him. Dad, can you help me with this problem? Caleb sat down next to his son. What's the problem? If Sarah has $15 and she spends $8 on a toy, how much does she have left? What do you think? Liam counted on his fingers. $7? That's right. These are easy. I don't know why I was having trouble. Sometimes you just need someone to sit with you while you figure it out. Liam grinned and went back to his homework. Simple problems with clear answers. Caleb's phone buzzed, a text from Eleanor. Thank you for fixing the water heater and for listening today. He stared at the message for a moment, then typed back, You're welcome. A minute later, another message. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Caleb helped Liam finish his homework, then made dinner. Spaghetti with meat sauce, Liam's favorite. How was the castle today? Liam asked. Better. The lady who lives there was nicer. Maybe she's learning how to be nicer. Maybe she is. Everyone can learn new things, right, Dad? Right. After Liam went to bed, Caleb sat at the kitchen table and looked at his repair list. He was making good progress. The electrical work was almost half done. The water heater was finished. If things kept going smoothly, he might actually finish in 2 weeks. But he found himself thinking less about the work and more about Eleanor. About the sad look in her eyes when she talked about her father. About how she seemed to expect the worst from everyone, including herself. Maybe tomorrow would be even better than today. Maybe Eleanor was learning to be nicer, like Liam had said. People could change. Caleb believed that. He had to believe that. Because if they couldn't, what hope was there for any of them? Day 4 brought rain. Heavy, gray rain that drummed against the windows and made the old mansion feel even more isolated. Caleb ran from his truck to the front door, but still got soaked. Mrs. Doyle let him in with a sympathetic smile. Terrible weather, she said. I've got the heat turned up and tea ready in the kitchen. That sounds great. Where's Eleanor? In her office, on the phone with lawyers. Something about a contract dispute. Eleanor's voice drifted down the hallway. She sounded frustrated and tired. I don't care what they want. The original agreement stands. No, absolutely not. Find another way. Caleb dried off and went to the kitchen. Mrs. Doyle had left hot tea and fresh scones on the counter. The kindness was a nice contrast to the storm outside. He was drinking tea and looking at his repair list when Eleanor appeared. Her hair was messy and she looked stressed. Sorry, she said. Business problems. Anything serious? Everything's serious when you're trying not to lose millions of dollars. She poured herself tea with shaking hands. A supplier is trying to back out of a contract. Claims we changed the terms. We didn't, but proving that will take months. Can't your lawyers handle it? They can try, but lawyers cost money and time, and there's no guarantee we'll win. Eleanor sat down across from him. Sometimes I wonder what my father would do. He always seemed to know exactly how to handle these situations. Maybe he had problems like this too. Maybe he just didn't let you see them. Eleanor looked surprised. You think so? Parents try to protect their kids from worry, even when the kids grow up. I never thought about that. She sipped her tea. I always assumed he had all the answers. Nobody has all the answers. You sound very sure of that. I'm a single dad. I make it up as I go along half the time. Eleanor smiled a little. Really? Really? Last week, Liam asked me why people get divorced. I had no idea what to say. What did you say? That sometimes people change, and they don't fit together anymore. Like puzzle pieces that used to match, but don't now. That's actually very wise. It sounded good, but I was terrified the whole time that I was saying the wrong thing. Eleanor was quiet for a moment. Do you ever wonder if Liam would be better off with someone else? Someone who had more answers? The question surprised Caleb. Sometimes, but then I remember that he's stuck with me, so I better figure it out. Stuck with you? He's my son. I'm his father. That's not going to change no matter how much I mess up. What if you mess up really badly? Then I apologize and try to do better next time. Eleanor stared into her teacup. I mess up with people all the time. I don't know how to apologize properly. You apologized to me yesterday. That seemed pretty proper. Did it? I've never been good at relationships. Business relationships, I understand. Personal ones confuse me. Caleb finished his tea. I should get to work. This rain is going to make the roof leak worse. Oh no, I forgot about the leak. They went upstairs to Eleanor's bedroom. It was huge and elegant, but there was a dark stain on the ceiling and a bucket in the corner to catch water. It's been dripping all morning, Eleanor said. Caleb looked up at the ceiling. The stain had spread since yesterday. I need to get up in the attic and see where it's coming from. Is that safe? In this rain? I'll be careful. The attic access was in the hallway. Caleb climbed up with a flashlight and looked around. The roof was old, and there were several places where water was getting in. The leak in Eleanor's room was just one of many problems. He climbed back down and found Eleanor waiting in the hallway. Well? She asked. You need a new roof. Eleanor's face went pale. The whole roof? Eventually. For now, I can patch the worst leaks. But this is a big job. $30,000 or $40,000. Eleanor sat down on a chair in the hallway. She looked overwhelmed. I can't. Not right now. Not with everything else going wrong. The patches will hold for a while. Maybe 6 months. A year if we're lucky. Okay, do the patches. Caleb spent the rest of the morning in the attic, sealing leaks with roofing cement and plastic sheeting. It was hot and dusty and uncomfortable. But the dripping in Eleanor's room stopped. When he came back downstairs, he found Eleanor in the living room staring out at the rain. All fixed? She asked. For now. Thank you. I know it wasn't pleasant work. Part of the job. Eleanor was quiet for a moment. Can I ask you something personal? Sure. When Liam's mother left, were you angry? The question caught Caleb off guard. Yeah, I was furious. How did you get past it? I'm not sure I have completely, but I decided being angry all the time wasn't good for Liam, so I try to focus on taking care of him instead of being mad at her. That sounds hard. It is. Some days are better than others. Eleanor nodded slowly. I think I've been angry for a long time. At my father for dying. At my mother for being the way she is. At everyone who expects me to be something I'm not. Being angry is normal, but it's exhausting. Yes, it is. They worked side by side for the rest of the afternoon. Caleb finished the living room outlets while Eleanor organized papers in her office nearby. It felt comfortable, like they were just two people sharing space instead of employer and employee. Around 4 o'clock, Eleanor made coffee and brought Caleb a cup. How's Liam doing in school? She asked. Good. He likes his teacher, and he's making friends. That's important. I never had many friends as a child. Why not? We moved a lot when I was young. My father's business required travel. And when we finally settled here, I went to private school with kids whose parents knew my father. They treated me differently because of that. How? Some were mean because they were jealous. Others were fake nice because they wanted access to my family's money. It was hard to know who genuinely liked me. Caleb thought about Liam's friends. Kids who invited him to birthday parties and shared their snacks at lunch. Simple, honest friendships. Kids are different than adults, he said. Are they? Or do adults teach them to be complicated? It was a good question. Caleb didn't have a good answer. Maybe both, he said finally. Eleanor smiled. Very diplomatic. They were interrupted by the sound of a car in the driveway. Eleanor looked out the window and frowned. I wasn't expecting anyone. A few minutes later, Mrs. Doyle appeared in the living room. Miss Eleanor, there's a woman here to see you. Says she's from Whitmore Industries. A tall, sharp-dressed woman followed Mrs. Doyle into the room. She had short dark hair and cold eyes. She looked at Caleb with obvious disapproval. Eleanor, we need to talk. Privately. Tessa, this is Caleb Wright. He's doing repair work on the house. Caleb, this is Tessa Price, my assistant. Tessa barely nodded at Caleb. The contractor can wait outside while we discuss business. Actually, he can continue working while we talk in the office. Eleanor, this is about the Morrison contract. It's confidential. Eleanor looked uncomfortable. Caleb could see her reverting to her old patterns, apologizing for having a contractor in her house. I'll work in another room, Caleb said. No problem. Thank you, Eleanor said quietly. Caleb gathered his tools and moved to the dining room, but he could hear pieces of Tessa's conversation from down the hallway. What were you thinking? Hiring him? Do you know what people will say? Your mother is already asking questions. Eleanor's responses were quieter, but Caleb could hear the defensiveness in her voice. After an hour, Tessa left. Eleanor found Caleb in the dining room. She looked embarrassed and angry. I'm sorry about that, she said. No problem. Tessa thinks having contractors here is unprofessional. Because I'm a contractor or because I'm black? Eleanor's face flushed red. She didn't say that specifically. But that's what she meant. Eleanor didn't answer right away. Tessa is very concerned about appearances, about what people think. And what do you think? I think this is my house, and I'll hire whoever I want to work on it. Good. But Caleb could see the doubt in Eleanor's eyes. Tessa's visit had shaken her confidence. She said people are talking, Eleanor said quietly. What people? Neighbors, business associates, my mother. About what? About me having a man living here. Caleb looked confused. Living here? You're here 12 hours a day. People see your truck in the driveway. They make assumptions. What kind of assumptions? Eleanor's face got even redder. That you and I are... Oh. Which is ridiculous, of course. The idea that I would... with someone like... She stopped herself. Someone like him. She couldn't even finish the sentence. Right, Caleb said. Ridiculous. I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it? Eleanor opened her mouth, then closed it. She looked miserable. I should finish up for today, Caleb said. Caleb, wait. It's fine, Eleanor. I get it. No, you don't. I was trying to say that people making assumptions about my personal life is ridiculous. Not that you're ridiculous. Okay? And I told Tessa that what people think doesn't matter. That you're doing excellent work, and that's all that counts. Did you? Yes, I did. Caleb studied her face. She looked like she was telling the truth. Okay, he said again. Are we okay? We're okay. But something had changed. The comfortable feeling from earlier was gone. Tessa's visit had reminded both of them about the world outside this house, about what people thought when they saw a black man and a white woman spending time together. Caleb finished packing his tools in silence. Eleanor watched from the doorway. Same time tomorrow? She asked. Unless you want me to come later, after the neighbors have gone to work. Caleb, I don't care what the neighbors think. Don't you? Eleanor was quiet for a long moment. I'm trying not to. Trying and doing are different things. I know that. Caleb headed for the front door. Eleanor followed. What can I do? She asked. To make this right? I don't know. That's up to you. Caleb drove home through the rain, thinking about Tessa's cold stare and Eleanor's embarrassment. About people making assumptions and the difference between trying and doing. He thought about Frank's warning from the first day. About Eleanor eating contractors alive. Maybe Frank had been right after all. Liam was waiting with homework when Caleb got home. A story to read and questions to answer. How was the castle today, Dad? Complicated. What does that mean? It means some days are harder than others. Liam looked worried. Are you okay? Caleb sat down next to his son. I'm okay. Just thinking about grown-up stuff. Is the lady being mean again? Not mean, just confused. About what? About what's right and what people think is right. Sometimes those are different things. Liam frowned. That doesn't make sense. I know. It doesn't make sense to me either. They worked on homework together. Simple questions about a story they'd read. Clear answers that made sense. Caleb wished real life was that simple. His phone buzzed later that evening. A text from Eleanor. I talked to Tessa again after you left. I told her that her comments about you were inappropriate and that she needs to treat you with respect. I hope that helps. Caleb stared at the message for a long time before responding. Thank you. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Maybe Eleanor was trying harder than he'd given her credit for. Maybe that was enough. For now. Day 5 started differently. When Caleb pressed the call button at the gate, Eleanor's voice came through immediately. Good morning, Caleb. Morning. I have something to show you before you start work today. The gate opened and Caleb drove up the driveway, wondering what Eleanor had in mind. When he got to the front door, she was waiting outside. No Mrs. Doyle, just Eleanor, standing in the morning sun. Follow me, she said. She led him around to the side of the house where a small apartment sat above the old carriage house. Caleb had noticed it before, but figured it was storage. This used to be the chauffeur's quarters, Eleanor said. Back when my father had a driver. It's been empty for years, but it's clean and furnished. She opened the door and led him upstairs. It was a simple but comfortable space. 1 bedroom, small kitchen, bathroom with a shower. The windows looked out over the ocean. Why are you showing me this? Caleb asked. Eleanor looked nervous. Yesterday, you said people were making assumptions about you being here so much. About your truck in the driveway. Yeah? Well, I thought, if you stayed here during the work week, you wouldn't have to drive back and forth every day. And people would see that you have your own space. That we're not what people think we are. Right. Eleanor's face was pink. It would be more professional and convenient for you. Caleb walked around the small apartment. It was nice, much nicer than his apartment at home. But something about the offer bothered him. Are you trying to hide me, Eleanor? What? No. I'm trying to make things easier. For who? Me or you? Eleanor opened her mouth, then closed it. Both, I suppose. What about Liam? What about him? He's 7 years old. I can't stay away from home for days at a time. Oh. Eleanor looked embarrassed. I didn't think about that. No, you didn't. They stood in the small living room looking at each other. The ocean waves crashed against the rocks below. I was trying to help, Eleanor said quietly. I know, but helping me means understanding my life, not just making your life easier. You're right. I'm sorry. Caleb walked to the window and looked out at the water. Can I ask you something? Of course. Yesterday, when Tessa was here, were you embarrassed about me? About what she might think? Eleanor was quiet for a long time. Yes, she said finally. I was. Why? Because I've spent my whole life caring what people think. My father taught me that reputation is everything. That one mistake can destroy what took generations to build. And having me here is a mistake? No. But it's complicated. Because I'm black. Eleanor winced. Because you're a man. Because people see patterns and make assumptions. Because my mother already called twice asking why there's a contractor's truck in my driveway every day. What did you tell her? That the house needs repairs and you're repairing it. And? And she said there are plenty of contractors who could do the work without living here. I don't live here. I know that. You know that. But from the outside? From the outside, it looks like something it's not. Yes. Caleb turned away from the window. Eleanor, I need this job. My son needs me to have this job, but I won't be hidden away like I'm something to be ashamed of. I'm not ashamed of you. Aren't you? Eleanor stared at him. I don't know, she said honestly. I don't know what I feel anymore. It was the most honest answer she could have given, and somehow it hurt more than a lie would have. I'm going to work now, Caleb said. In the house? Yes, in the house. Like a normal contractor doing a normal job. Eleanor nodded. Okay. They walked back to the main house in silence. Caleb got his tools from the truck, while Eleanor went inside. When he came to the front door, she was waiting with coffee. Peace offering, she said, holding out a mug. Thanks. They stood in the foyer drinking coffee. The silence wasn't comfortable, but it wasn't hostile either. I've been thinking, Eleanor said, about what you said yesterday, about the difference between trying and doing. And I think I've been trying to be a better person without actually changing anything that matters. What would changing something that matters look like? Eleanor was quiet for a moment. I don't know. I've never thought that far ahead. Caleb finished his coffee and set down the mug. Where do you want me to start today? The study. The outlet behind my father's desk hasn't worked in months. The study was a room Caleb hadn't been in before. Dark wood paneling, heavy furniture, shelves full of books. A massive desk sat in front of windows that looked out at the garden. This was my father's favorite room, Eleanor said. He spent every evening here, working, reading, thinking. Do you use it? No, I can't. It still feels like his space. Caleb found the problem outlet behind the desk. To reach it, he'd have to move some of the furniture. Is it okay if I move this chair? He asked. Of course. Caleb moved a heavy leather chair and found the outlet. The cover was loose and the wiring looked old. This will take a while, he said. I need to replace the whole outlet and check the circuit. I'll be in the kitchen if you need anything. Eleanor left, and Caleb got to work. The outlet was connected to the same problematic circuit as half the other rooms. He'd have to run new wire from the basement again. While he worked, he noticed things about the room. Family photos on the desk, business awards on the walls, a half-finished crossword puzzle next to an old coffee mug. Everything looked like someone had just stepped out for a moment. Like Eleanor's father might come back any minute and want his chair in exactly the right place. Caleb was drilling a hole for new wire when he heard voices in the kitchen. Eleanor was talking to someone, a man's voice he didn't recognize. Miss Whitmore, I understand you've been having work done. Yes, electrical repairs mostly. I see. And you're satisfied with the quality of the work? Very satisfied. Good, because I wanted to offer my services for any future projects. My crew specializes in high-end residential work. Caleb paused his drilling to listen. Something about the man's tone bothered him. Thank you, but I already have a contractor, Eleanor said. Of course, but if you ever need additional help, or if you decide you want a more established company handling your projects. What do you mean by established? Well, someone with better credentials, better references. Someone who understands the unique needs of properties like this. Caleb set down his drill. The man was trying to steal the job, and he was doing it by implying that Caleb wasn't qualified. I'm perfectly satisfied with Mr. Wright's work, Eleanor said. I'm sure he tries hard, but there's a difference between trying and professional expertise. Between someone who knows what they're doing and someone who's learning on the job. Caleb had heard enough. He walked to the kitchen doorway and found Eleanor talking to a middle-aged white man in an expensive suit. The man looked at Caleb with obvious disdain. "Mr. Wright," Eleanor said, "this is James Morrison from Morrison Construction." Morrison didn't offer to shake hands. "The contractor." "That's right. I was just telling Miss Whitmore about our services. 20 years in business, fully bonded and insured. References from some of the finest homes in the area." "Good for you," Caleb said. Morrison turned back to Eleanor. "Miss Whitmore, I'd hate to see you taken advantage of. Some contractors see a job like this as an opportunity to pad bills and extend timelines." "Is that what you think I'm doing?" Caleb asked. Morrison looked at him like he was surprised Caleb had spoken. "I think inexperienced contractors often bite off more than they can chew." "How do you know I'm inexperienced?" "Well, I assumed." "You assumed what?" Morrison's face got red. "I didn't mean anything by it." "Sure you did." Eleanor stepped between them. "Mr. Morrison, I appreciate the offer, but as I said, I'm satisfied with the current arrangement." "Of course. But if anything changes—" Morrison handed Eleanor a business card. "Day or night, Miss Whitmore, we pride ourselves on being available for our premium clients." After Morrison left, Eleanor and Caleb stood in the kitchen staring at each other. "Premium clients?" Caleb said. "I didn't invite him here." "How did he know about the work?" Eleanor looked uncomfortable. "Word gets around. Small town?" "Or someone told him." "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe Tessa mentioned it to someone. Or your mother made some phone calls." Eleanor's face went pale. "You think my mother sent him?" "I think someone wants me off this job." "Well, they're going to be disappointed. You're staying." "Am I?" "Yes, you are." Eleanor said it with more conviction than Caleb had heard from her before. "Even if it causes problems with your mother? With Tessa? With the neighbors?" "Yes." "Why?" Eleanor was quiet for a moment. "Because you're doing good work. Because you've been honest with me. And because firing you for the wrong reasons would make me exactly the person I don't want to be." It was the right answer. But Caleb could see the fear in her eyes. "Your mother's going to be angry," he said. "My mother is always angry about something. This is different. This is about me." "I know." They looked at each other across the kitchen. Two people from different worlds trying to figure out how to do the right thing. "I should get back to work," Caleb said. "Caleb?" "Yeah?" "Thank you for staying, despite everything. Thank you for asking me to." Caleb spent the rest of the morning in the study, running new wire and installing a new outlet. The work was going well, but he couldn't stop thinking about Morrison's visit. Someone was definitely trying to get him fired. The question was whether Eleanor would be strong enough to resist the pressure. Around lunchtime, she appeared in the study doorway. "How's it going?" "Almost done. You'll have power behind the desk by this afternoon." "Good." Eleanor looked around the room. "I know I said I don't use this space, but I've been thinking about that." "Oh?" "Maybe it's time I made it my space too. Maybe keeping it exactly like it was isn't helping anyone." Caleb thought about that while he finished the wiring. About holding on to things that hurt you. About spaces that belong to dead people instead of living ones. "Your father would probably want you to use it," he said. "You think so?" "I think he'd want you to make the whole house feel like home, not like a museum." Eleanor walked around the room touching things. Books, picture frames, the old coffee mug. "I've been so afraid of changing anything," she said. "Like if I moved his things or used his desk, I'd be erasing him somehow." "Moving things isn't erasing them." "No?" "No, it's making space for new memories while keeping the old ones." Eleanor picked up the old coffee mug. and looked at it. He drank coffee from this mug every morning for 10 years. What's your favorite mug? I don't have one. I just use whatever's clean. Maybe you should get one. Keep his mug for special occasions, but have your own too. Eleanor smiled a little. That's very practical advice. I'm a practical guy. She set the mug back down and walked to the desk. Can I tell you something? Sure. When Morrison was here earlier, I was tempted to listen to him. Not because I thought you were doing bad work, but because it would have been easier, less complicated. What stopped you? I kept thinking about what you said, about the difference between trying and doing. And I realized that keeping you here wasn't just about the job. It was about who I want to be. And who do you want to be? Someone who does the right thing, even when it's hard. Someone my father would be proud of for the right reasons, not just because I maintained his reputation. It was a good answer. Maybe the best answer she could have given. I think you're getting there, Caleb said. Am I? Yeah, you are. Eleanor smiled, a real smile this time. Not polite or nervous or guarded, just happy. Thank you, she said. For what? For seeing something in me that I'm not sure I see in myself yet. Caleb finished the outlet and tested it. Perfect power, no problems. All set, he said. Your father's desk is back in business. Eleanor plugged in a small lamp and turned it on. Light filled the corner of the room. It feels different already, she said. More alive? Good different? Good different. They stood in the study looking at the newly working outlet. Such a small thing, but it felt like more than that, like a first step towards something bigger. What's next? Eleanor asked. Kitchen lights. Some of the switches don't work right. I meant with us. With this situation. Caleb looked at her. What do you want to be next? I want us to be friends. Real friends, if that's possible. It's possible, but friends have to trust each other. I know. And they have to have each other's backs when things get difficult. I know that too. Good, because I think things are going to get more difficult before they get easier. Eleanor nodded. My mother is coming to visit this weekend. How do you feel about that? Terrified. Caleb laughed. At least you're honest. I'm trying to be. It's harder than I thought it would be. Most good things are. They walked to the kitchen together. Friends, maybe. Or at least two people trying to figure out how to be friends despite everything working against them. It was a start. That evening, Caleb picked up Liam from after-school care and drove home. Liam chattered about his day while Caleb thought about Eleanor standing up to Morrison. About her saying she wanted to be someone her father would be proud of for the right reasons. People really could change. He was seeing it happen right in front of him. Dad, you look happy, Liam said as they pulled into their apartment complex. Do I? Yeah, like when you fixed something that was really broken. Maybe I did fix something today. What? I'm not sure yet, but I think it's going to be something good. Liam grinned. I like when you fix good things. Me too, buddy. Me too. His phone buzzed as they walked up the stairs to their apartment. A text from Eleanor. My mother arrives Saturday morning. I may need moral support. Caleb smiled and typed back. You'll be fine. Just remember who you want to be. Thank you for everything today. Thank you too. For what? For choosing to trust me. It was the right choice. Yeah, it was. Caleb helped Liam with homework and made dinner and got ready for another day at the mansion on Cliff Road. But for the first time since he'd taken the job, he was looking forward to going back. Not because the work was easy. It wasn't. But because sometimes the hardest jobs were the ones worth doing. And sometimes the people who seemed the most difficult were the ones who needed help the most. Eleanor was changing. He could see it happening day by day. The question was whether she'd be strong enough to keep changing when her mother arrived. Caleb hoped so, for both their sakes. Saturday morning came with clear skies and a sense of dread. Caleb wasn't supposed to work weekends, but Eleanor had texted him Friday night. "Would you mind coming in tomorrow, just to finish the kitchen lights before my mother arrives? I know it's your day off." He'd said yes, partly because he needed the money, but mostly because he could hear the panic in her text messages. Caleb dropped Liam at his friend Marcus's house for a play date and drove to Cliff Road. The mansion looked different in the morning light. Less imposing somehow. More like a house and less like a fortress. Eleanor met him at the door. She was dressed differently than usual. A simple blue dress instead of her usual business clothes. Her hair was down instead of pulled back tight. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I know this is last minute." "No problem. When does your mother get here?" 11 o'clock. Eleanor checked her watch. 2 hours. She looked nervous, more nervous than Caleb had ever seen her. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I'm fine. Just want everything to be perfect when she arrives." But as they walked to the kitchen, Caleb could see that Eleanor was anything but fine. Her hands were shaking. She kept checking her phone. She straightened things that were already straight. "Eleanor," he said gently, "it's going to be okay." "Is it? Because I feel like I'm about to face a firing squad." "She's your mother, not your boss." Eleanor laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "You don't know my mother." Caleb got to work on the kitchen light switches. 2 of them were wired backwards, which made the lights flicker. Simple fix, but it required taking apart the switch boxes. While he worked, Eleanor paced around the kitchen. She cleaned things that were already clean. She rearranged flowers in a vase. She checked the refrigerator 3 times to make sure there was enough food. "You know what I realized?" Eleanor said suddenly. "What?" "I haven't had anyone stay here since my father died. Not family, not friends, nobody. That's a long time to be alone. 5 years. 5 years of this big empty house with nobody but Mrs. Doyle." "Why hasn't your mother visited before?" Eleanor stopped pacing. "Because she doesn't approve of how I live. She thinks I should sell this place and move closer to her. Get married, have children, be a proper daughter instead of trying to run a business." "What do you want?" "I want her to be proud of me, but I want her to be proud of who I actually am, not who she thinks I should be." Caleb understood that feeling, the weight of trying to live up to someone else's expectations. "Have you told her that?" he asked. "How do you tell your mother that everything she wants for you feels wrong?" Carefully, but honestly. Eleanor sat down at the kitchen table. "When I was little, she used to brush my hair every night, 100 strokes exactly. She'd tell me stories about princesses who married princes and lived in castles." "Sounds nice." It was nice, but all the princesses in her stories were saved by someone else. They never saved themselves. Caleb finished the first light switch and tested it. Perfect. No more flickering. "Maybe she just wanted you to be safe," he said. "Maybe, but safe isn't the same as happy." "No, it's not." They were interrupted by the sound of a car in the driveway. Eleanor looked out the window and went pale. "She's early." A black town car pulled up to the front door. A driver got out and opened the back door. A woman emerged, tall, elegant, with silver hair and expensive clothes. Even from a distance, Caleb could see the resemblance to Eleanor. "She looks like you," he said. "She looks like who I'm supposed to become." The front door chimed. Mrs. Doyle's footsteps echoed across the marble floor. "Miss Eleanor," Mrs. Doyle called. "Your mother is here." Eleanor took a deep breath. "Hide," she whispered to Caleb. What? Please, just until I can explain the situation. Eleanor, I'm not hiding. We talked about this. I know, but I need time to prepare her. Prepare her for what? The fact that you hired a contractor? Eleanor! Sharp voice called from the front hall. Where are you? Eleanor's face went white. Please, Caleb, just give me 5 minutes. Against his better judgment, Caleb nodded. He stepped into the pantry and partially closed the door. He could hear everything, but he wouldn't be immediately visible. Footsteps clicked across the kitchen floor. High heels on marble. There you are. The voice was crisp and cold. This place looks exactly the same as always. Haven't you done anything with it? Hello, Mother. Eleanor's voice was small, like a little girl's. And what is all this mess? Tools everywhere, dust on the floor. I'm having some repairs done, electrical work mostly. Repairs? Why didn't you call Morrison Construction? I gave you their number months ago. I found someone else. Someone else? Eleanor, this house is too valuable for amateur work. You need professionals. He is a professional. Who is he? What company? His name is Caleb Wright. He's very skilled. Caleb heard papers rustling. Someone was looking through his supplies. These tools look cheap, Eleanor's mother said. And what is this truck outside? It's rusted, quite unsightly. The truck belongs to the contractor. Well, he needs to move it. I don't want the neighbors seeing that thing in your driveway. Mother, it's just a truck. Nothing is just anything when you have a reputation to maintain. Your father understood that. Eleanor was quiet. Caleb could picture her shrinking under her mother's criticism. Where is this contractor now? The older woman asked. He's working in another part of the house. It was technically true, but Caleb could hear the strain in Eleanor's voice. Good. I want to talk to you privately, about several things. Footsteps moved toward the kitchen table. Chairs scraped against the floor. First, Eleanor's mother said, the Morrison situation. James Morrison called me yesterday. He said you refused his services rather rudely. I wasn't rude. I told him I already had someone. He said the contractor you hired was inappropriate. Inappropriate how? You know how. There was silence. Then Eleanor spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. No, Mother. I don't know how. Please explain. Don't make me say it, Eleanor. Say what? More silence. Then the older woman sighed. Fine. Morrison said the contractor is black, and that he's here every day. All day. People are talking. What are they saying? What do you think they're saying? A young woman, alone in this big house, with a black man here constantly. It looks improper. Caleb's hands clenched into fists. He wanted to step out of the pantry and defend himself, defend Eleanor. But he stayed put. Mother, it's not improper, it's business. Is it? Because Morrison said the man's truck is here from morning until night. That suggests more than casual repair work. It's a big house. There's a lot to fix. There are other contractors, Eleanor? White contractors, established contractors who understand their place. Understand their place? You know what I mean. Actually, I don't. Please explain what you mean by their place. Eleanor's voice was getting stronger. Not louder, but more determined. Eleanor, don't be naive. Some people are more suitable for certain situations than others. Suitable how? They understand boundaries. They don't get ideas above their station. What ideas? Ideas about friendship, about being welcome in places they don't belong. Caleb had heard enough. He stepped out of the pantry and into the kitchen. Both women turned to look at him. Eleanor's mother was exactly what he'd expected. Perfectly dressed, perfectly polished, and looking at him like he was something unpleasant she'd found on her shoe. Mrs. Whitmore, he said politely. I'm Caleb Wright. Eleanor's mother stared at him. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed. "Caleb," Eleanor said, "I thought you were upstairs." "I was in the pantry, working on the electrical panel." It was a lie, but it gave everyone a way to save face. "Well?" Eleanor's mother said coldly. "How convenient." "I'm sorry for interrupting," Caleb said. "I'll go work somewhere else." "Actually," Eleanor said, her voice growing stronger, "I'd like you to stay. Mother, this is Caleb Wright. He's been doing excellent work on the house. Caleb, this is my mother, Nora Whitmore." Nora Whitmore looked at Caleb's outstretched hand like it might bite her. After a long moment, she touched his fingers briefly, then pulled her hand away. "Mr. Wright," she said icily. "Mrs. Whitmore, Eleanor has told me a lot about you." "Has she? How nice." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Mother," Eleanor said, "Caleb has been working here for a week. The electrical system was dangerous. He's made it safe. I'm sure he's done his best." The dismissal in her tone was clear. Caleb was used to it, but it still stung. "Actually," he said calmly, "I think I've done better than my best. Your daughter has a beautiful house. It deserves quality work." Nora's eyebrows rose. "How generous of you to say so." "I don't think it's generous. I think it's true." Eleanor was watching the exchange with wide eyes, like she couldn't believe Caleb was talking back to her mother. "Well," Nora said, "I suppose everyone is entitled to their opinion." "Yes, ma'am, they are." Nora turned to Eleanor. "Perhaps we could continue our conversation privately?" "Of course. Caleb, would you mind working in the study for a while?" "No problem." Caleb gathered his tools and headed for the study. But as he reached the doorway, he heard Nora speak again. "Eleanor, we need to discuss this situation immediately." "What situation?" "Don't play dumb. It doesn't suit you." Caleb closed the study door behind him, but he could still hear voices through the walls. Not words, but tones. Nora's voice getting sharper. Eleanor's getting smaller. He tried to focus on work, but it was hard to concentrate. Every few minutes, he'd hear Eleanor's voice rise, then fade again. After an hour, the voices stopped. Footsteps in the hallway. The front door opening and closing. A car starting in the driveway. Caleb waited a few minutes, then went looking for Eleanor. He found her in the kitchen, sitting at the table with her head in her hands. "Hey," he said softly. "You okay?" Eleanor looked up. Her eyes were red. "She left," Eleanor said. "Because of me?" "Because I wouldn't fire you." Caleb sat down across from her. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. She gave me an ultimatum. Fire you and hire Morrison Construction, or she'd stop speaking to me." "And you chose me?" "I chose to do what I thought was right." "Even though it meant losing your mother?" Eleanor was quiet for a moment. "I haven't lost her. She'll come around eventually, but even if she doesn't, I couldn't live with myself if I fired you just because she disapproved." "That couldn't have been easy." "It wasn't, but it was necessary." They sat in silence for a while. The kitchen felt different without Nora's presence. Warmer, more peaceful. "Can I ask you something?" Eleanor said. "Sure." "When you were in the pantry, how much did you hear?" Caleb met her eyes. "Enough." "I'm sorry, about what she said, about the way she thinks." "It's not your fault how she thinks." "Isn't it? I've spent 34 years trying to please her. Maybe if I'd stood up to her sooner, she wouldn't think it was acceptable to talk about people that way." "Maybe. Or maybe she'd just be better at hiding it." Eleanor nodded slowly. "When I was growing up, she used to say things about our housekeeper, about people we'd see in town. I always thought it was just her being particular. I didn't realize how ugly it really was until I heard her talking about you." "And how did that make you feel?" "Ashamed Of her, of myself for not seeing it clearly before, of the fact that part of me was worried about what people would think too. But you stood up to her anyway. Yes. Why? Eleanor looked out the window at the ocean. Because you were right about the difference between trying and doing. I've been trying to be a better person without actually doing anything that mattered. Today, I did something that mattered. Yes, you did. It feels strange. Good strange. But strange. Caleb understood. Standing up to people you loved was never easy, even when they were wrong. What happens now? He asked. Now I finish having this house repaired by the best contractor I've ever met. And I figure out how to have a relationship with my mother that doesn't require me to be someone I'm not. And if she won't accept that, then I guess I'll learn to live without her approval. Eleanor said it quietly, but Caleb could hear the strength in her voice, the determination. You're braver than you think, he said. Am I? Yes, you are. They worked together for the rest of the day. Caleb finished the kitchen lights while Eleanor organized her father's papers in the study. It felt natural, comfortable, like they were partners in making the house feel like a home again. At 5 o'clock, Caleb started packing up his tools. Same time Monday? He asked. Actually, Eleanor said, would you like to stay for dinner? Mrs. Doyle made enough food for an army, and after today, I could use the company. Caleb thought about Liam at Marcus's house. The playdate was supposed to last until 7. I'd like that, he said. But I need to pick up my son at 7. Bring him here. Mrs. Doyle loves children, and this house could use the sound of a kid laughing. You sure? I'm sure. Caleb called Marcus's mom and arranged to pick up Liam at the mansion instead. Then he helped Eleanor and Mrs. Doyle set the table in the breakfast nook. It's been years since we've had a proper dinner here, Mrs. Doyle said happily. This house needs life in it. It needs a lot of things, Eleanor said. But life is a good start. When Liam arrived, his eyes went wide at the sight of the mansion. Dad, it really is a castle. Pretty big, huh? It's like in the fairy tales. Eleanor knelt down to Liam's level. Hi, Liam. I'm Eleanor. Your dad has been taking very good care of my house. Liam studied her face seriously. Are you the princess who lives here? Eleanor smiled. I live here, but I don't think I'm much of a princess. Why not? Princesses are supposed to be nice all the time. I'm still learning how to be nice. My dad is teaching you? In a way, yes. He's good at teaching. He taught me how to ride a bike and how to make pancakes. Those are important skills. Want to see the drawing I made of your house? Liam pulled a folded paper from his backpack. It was a crayon drawing of the mansion with 3 stick figures in front. A tall man, a smaller boy, and a woman in a dress. That's all of us, Liam explained. Dad, me, and you. We're all smiling because the house isn't sad anymore. Eleanor stared at the drawing, her eyes filled with tears. It's beautiful, Liam. Thank you. You can keep it if you want. I'd love to. They ate dinner together in the breakfast nook. Mrs. Doyle had made roast chicken and mashed potatoes, comfort food that filled the house with warm smells and warmer feelings. Liam chattered about school and his friends. He asked Eleanor questions about the house and the ocean and why she lived alone. Don't you get lonely? He asked. Sometimes, Eleanor admitted. We get lonely too sometimes, but Dad says being lonely isn't the same as being alone. What's the difference? Being alone is just when nobody's around. Being lonely is when nobody cares about you. Eleanor looked at Caleb. Your son is very wise. He gets that from his mother. Where is she? Liam asked Eleanor. Liam, Caleb warned gently. It's okay, Eleanor said. I don't have children, Liam. It's just me in this big house. That's why you were lonely. But now you have us. Do I? Sure. We care about you, don't we, Dad? Caleb met Eleanor's eyes across the table. Yes, he said. We do. See? Liam said happily. Now you're not lonely anymore. If only it were that simple, Caleb thought. But looking at Eleanor's face, maybe it was simpler than they'd all thought. Maybe caring about someone really was enough to start with. After dinner, Liam fell asleep on the couch in the study. Caleb carried him to the truck, while Eleanor walked them out. Thank you, she said. For today, for bringing Liam, for everything. Thank you for standing up to your mother. It was the right thing to do. Yes, it was. Eleanor looked at Liam sleeping in the truck. He's beautiful, Caleb. You're a good father. I try. You do more than try. They stood in the driveway looking at each other. Two people who'd started as strangers and somehow become something more. See you Monday? Eleanor asked. See you Monday. Caleb drove home with Liam sleeping in the passenger seat. The boy woke up as they pulled into their apartment complex. Dad, I like Eleanor. I'm glad. She was sad before, but she's happy now. What makes you think that? She smiled different at dinner, like she meant it. Caleb carried Liam upstairs and tucked him into bed. Then he sat in the kitchen thinking about the day, about Eleanor standing up to her mother, about choosing to do what was right instead of what was easy. His phone buzzed. A text from Eleanor. Thank you for a wonderful day. Liam's drawing is on my refrigerator. First time this kitchen has looked happy in years. Caleb smiled and typed back. Thank you for dinner and for choosing courage over fear. It was easier with you there. That's what friends are for. Is that what we are? Friends? Caleb thought about it, about trust and respect and caring about someone enough to risk something important for them. Yeah, he typed. That's what we are. Good. I've never had a friend like you before. Like me? How? Someone who sees who I really am and likes me anyway. There's a lot to like, Eleanor. I'm still learning to believe that. Keep learning. You're getting there. See you Monday, friend. See you Monday. Caleb set his phone down and looked around his small apartment. Tomorrow was Sunday, a day of rest before starting another week at the mansion on Cliff Road. But it didn't feel like work anymore. It felt like helping a friend become the person she was meant to be. And maybe, in the process, he was becoming more himself too. The job was almost done. Another week, maybe two, and all the repairs would be finished. But Caleb had a feeling his relationship with Eleanor Whitmore was just beginning. For the first time in a long time, that felt like something to look forward to.